I went to the house in San Marco as the older home, and it was just massive, and it was like a scary situation.
That's generally the number one time that you realize you don't have a weapon. It's one of the worst feelings.
But I had my son with me who was 3 weeks old, and he was in a carrier, and I was with a customer who I trusted like indefinitely, and like it was a very sketchy situation.
I do recommend as well, like go to some martial arts, take some jiu-jitsu, take some different classes and stuff.
We were pulling up to our commercial listing. Someone got out. 2 guys had machetes, and they get out, and they were really going to go chop down some foliage or something.
If you're applying for your VA loan and they have no other properties financed with you, then they will let you qualify for whatever you qualify for. They don't care. If you qualify, if you show the debt to income and the responsibility to handle that payment, they say fire it up.
Welcome to the Homeowner Hookup,
where we break down everything you need to know about real estate.
Straightforward, practical, and always up to date.
We're your hosts, Megan Huey
and Sydney Ragusa.
Let's dive in.
Hi, Meg.
Hey, Sid.
How are you today?
Good. We have a special guest with us, CJ Bobola.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. He is with Heroic Mortgage. He also owns Anchored Armory Gun Store. And he is here to talk to us about VA loans in honor of Veterans Day. You are a veteran yourself, correct?
Yep. I was in the Navy for about 11 years.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being here.
I appreciate it.
Is the Navy what brought you to Jacksonville?
A little bit. My dad was in the Navy as well, and his dad and my mom's dad was in the Marines, and my cousin was in the Marines, and my cousin was in the Army, and my aunt was in the Air Force. So
full family affair.
Yeah, we pretty much only had one family business, and that was the military.
Yeah.
For the longest time. So we were stationed out at Mayport about 5 times when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. So it was like I was always trying to get back to Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. And then he got stationed in Norfolk, and that's where I graduated high school. I went into the Navy. I got stationed in Norfolk. And then I got out, was Virginia Beach Police, and then finally was able to get a job doing mortgages that got me back to Jacksonville. And that's how I got into the industry.
Nice.
That's awesome.
How long have you been in the mortgage industry now?
This is my 10th year.
Wow. Okay. So You're like Sid. You guys are the OGs.
Yeah. Just hit 10 years this month. It was October 26th. So 2 days ago was when 2015 was when I moved down, quit my job. It was like deuces.
Yeah. I remember meeting you. I started, 3 years ago in real estate? I remember you had come to United Real Estate Gallery, and you were kind of telling us what was going on with, at the time, it was first responders and all of that. So I kind of wanted to see, how long have you been working with VA loans, and what kind of sets you apart as far as your specialty goes?
Yeah, so when I got started, we started at Carrington Mortgage Services in a call center that goes down to 500 FICO on FHA and VA. And so I kind of learned the nitty gritty of mortgages. I didn't learn any bad habits. I learned what could and couldn't be done. And after that, I went to a builder and worked with new construction for a while. And then I joined Heroes first and eventually started Heroic Mortgage for my own kind of brand. I just found that being with military, police, firefighters, those were kind of my people that I resonated and connected with. So I wanted to find a way to be able to give back to them and try to help them out and say thank you for serving the community. So when I launched Heroic Mortgage in November of last year, we decided to do a hero promise. And so our hero promise that we give to all of our military, police, firefighters, medical, and teachers is we'd give them a free appraisal up to $650 and a 0.4% lender credit towards their closing cost. Awesome. And so that just comes from the branch to the service member or the first responder as a thank you for serving the community. And then we have, of course, a bunch of other programs, and we try to help out as much as we can. I'm also involved with some different organizations with JSO, and I try to help out with different veteran groups and different veteran associations in the Jacksonville, Duval area, but really trying to lean into giving back to that community.
Yeah, you've definitely found your niche, I would say. You were the first person I thought of when I thought of like VA loans and who to talk to about this. So
Hmm.
it was came naturally. You've definitely got your marketing on point with that.
Yeah. Your brand is
Yeah, your
definitely there.
brand. There you
I
go.
appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, I've had a couple VA loans myself, so it kind of helps being able to be on that side. And then also growing up military and being in the military, it just helps being able to connect with the borrowers because I understand what they're going through. I understand how, PCSing works and all of those acronyms and terms that not necessarily the civilian market understands.
Mhm.
And when a service member is trying to explain to a processor or an underwriter, LESs and moving around and back pay and ship pay and C pay and hazardous duty pay and all of that, it helps with me personally being able to have that experience to be able to talk to the processor or talk to the underwriter because a lot of times it's just the terminology doesn't match up, right? Pay stubs, W-2s, we have different things in the military. So I noticed that that was probably the biggest frustration for service members when they go to apply for a mortgage is just the terms aren't matching up. And it's almost like you're speaking two different languages, and then it becomes frustrating.
I would agree with that. Like, I think I got the military relocation specialist certification, but I wasn't raised around military members. I wasn't, I didn't know the language. And so it takes a lot of getting used to. What would you say? Like, let's just say we're talking to people who have benefits, they have eligibility, but they don't know anything about the home buying process or where to start. What are some things that you would say to them that they should know or should start with?
Yeah, generally the first thing that we actually talk about with a lot of our veterans is just kind of dispelling some of those VA myths. So a lot of the times we get, we call it sea lawyers in the Navy, is basically people passing off information, right, that don't necessarily know whether it's true or not. And they're giving all the soldiers and sailors advice, and they don't know whether it's sound or not. So there's a whole bunch of myths out there with the VA. Number one, usually we'll say, oh, we're going to save our VA loan for our forever home. Well, you don't have to save it. You can use it as many times as you want. You can have more than one VA loan at a time. They don't understand that. Another one would be they think that it passes down similar to the GI Bill that you can use for college. I'll get veterans that call me and they go, hey, I'm not using my VA loan, so I'm going to let my daughter use it. Can't do that, right? So 9 times out of 10, it's just dispelling myths and kind of educating and helping them out. I literally just this weekend talked to a borrower who said, oh, I want to do a conventional because I want to save my VA loan. And so I explained to her how eligibility works and all of that good stuff and was able to show her that she could purchase one house and then after 12 months be able to purchase another home and move into it without any issues. And then with somebody that's never bought a home or we're kind of starting from scratch, I also like to just kind of explain the process of both buying a home and how VA loan works. So a lot of veterans don't understand it, and we think similar to VA healthcare that you have to go to the VA to get it, right? And so they use that same thought process when it comes to the VA loan. They go, oh, I'm going to call the VA and get my VA loan. And I'm like, you don't have to, right? So with mortgages, the lender will actually set up the loan. They have underwriters who are certified through VA to underwrite the loan. We go ahead and fund the loan. They move into the home. And then we finish up all the package, dot all the T's, cross all the I's, and we send it over to VA and they check it for accuracy and endorse it, right? So you don't actually have to go to the VA and wait for them to do everything. You just go directly to the lender who is certified to originate and underwrite VA loans. Right. And so once you get that pre-approval, then you go shop for a home, you find a home, make an offer, go under contract. Once you go under contract, the lender starts the paperwork on the VA and they do everything up front. And then we actually send it to the VA on the back end after they've already moved in.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like that sets it up really well.
Yeah, both my brothers are Marines. My dad was Army, and I've done quite a few VA loans, but it's totally different on a realtor side than it is on a lender side.
Yeah.
And you have so many hoops to jump through for VA loans. Like, what are some things that you feel like are, I guess, hindrances in VA loans?
Yeah, VA is actually one of the most lenient loan programs there are, but a lot of times it's again myths that are stopping us. Like we saw a lot of problems in 2020 and 2021 when the housing market got super hot because agents that had these previous nomenclations that the VA loan was harder, or the VA loan would take longer, or there was issues, would advise sellers not to take VA loans and not to take VA offers. And so I had, realtors that are driving around veterans who are trying to get in a home because they're getting ready to deploy and they need to set their family up. And they're putting in offer after offer after offer, and nobody's accepting it because the VA loan was looked down upon.
Yeah, I definitely ran into that a lot, even both on like the listing and the buyer's agent side. COVID was a massive time for that to happen. I would go into a listing appointment and, we would go over all of the eligible buyer situations that you could have: VA, FHA, conventional, if it needed a 1031. But when we were talking about VA, I just remember a lot of sellers were like, oh, I don't want a VA loan. I've always heard that it's really difficult. You have to go through way more inspections. We have to pay more money. And, I don't want to do VA loan. And I never understood. Like, I was like, I don't understand why you would not want to go with a VA loan. I feel like that's probably one of my favorite loan products to work with.
Yeah, it's definitely, the VA does have their quirks, right? The myths aren't completely unfounded, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is like the siding has to match. So if like they replaced some colors of siding and then what they didn't paint it and it was and it's like, does that really stop the home from being habitable, that the siding's two different colors? Right. So like it can be a little bit of a pain. But for the most part, they're just looking out for the veteran. They want to make sure that the veteran's moving into a house that's ready for them to move into. They don't want people purchasing homes as investments. This is, a benefit for a veteran to get a primary residence so they have a place to live right out the gate. So they have a little bit stricter policies on the condition that the home needs to be in. The biggest one is being a wood-destroying organism. They do require a WDO report to be done, and if there's any damage due to wood-destroying organisms, they require that it be repaired or replaced. That is something you have to know as a seller, the condition that your house is in, and your realtor should be able to kind of articulate to you, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I would see the frustration was people would say, oh, well, we don't want to deal with VA because the appraisal's harder or the inspections are harder, and there's just things that could be that we don't want to deal with. And I'm like, the home was built last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is not up to code or going to cause a problem, right? Like if the home was built in 1970 and you don't want to do a VA offer, I get it, at the end of the day. But there was all this new construction, and that was still their reasoning for not accepting a VA loan. And it was extremely frustrating.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
So as using a VA loan, can you explain the process as far as binder deposits and down payments and all of that?
Yeah, so with the VA loan, obviously there's 100% financing, which means that the buyer doesn't have to put down a down payment. They're more than welcome to, and there are some benefits to putting down some money. The biggest thing is the VA charges a funding fee for backing or endorsing your mortgage. The funding fee, if you borrow 100%, is 1.5% the first time you use your VA loan. If you're using your VA loan for a second time or subsequent, it's actually 3.3%. So what that means is if you're buying a $300,000 house and you're not putting any money down, and let's say this is the second time that you're using it, they're charging 3.3%, which would be $9,900. They roll that into your mortgage so you don't have to pay it up front, but that's still a significant fee.
Yeah.
If you put down 5%, that fee drops from 3.3 to 1.25. And so that's going to significantly reduce the amount that you have to pay.
Yeah.
Right. So what are some ways that someone wouldn't have to pay a funding fee? Is there a way that someone wouldn't have to pay a funding fee?
Yeah, the good news is that if receiving any disability, you're exempt from the funding fee.
Any disability.
Yep. The minimum rating is generally 10%. It's not like homestead or taxes in Florida where you have to be 100%. For the funding fee, if you're receiving any disability rating, whether it's 10% up to 100%, they waive the funding fee. So then you can borrow 100% every single time you use your VA loan, and they're not going to roll anything into your mortgage.
That's really good to know.
Yeah. And the benefits outweigh that cost. Yes, you have that cost of it being rolled in, but they don't charge mortgage insurance or a monthly mortgage premium like FHA or conventional does. With FHA, they require the mortgage insurance for the entire life of the loan, unless you put down 5%, and then they still require it for the first 5 years. With conventional, it's until you hit that 80% loan to value. So you either put 20% down or you pay down the balance or the value of the home goes up. You don't have that with VA. So it's going to save you on a month-to-month basis. You get a little bit more rolled into your mortgage, but you don't have that monthly hit.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And so while we're talking about this, are there any programs, or did you already talk about the program that you guys offer in particular?
Hero Promise program is just our in-house program that we give back, but there are other programs out there that are available nationwide through multiple lenders. The biggest one that we have in Florida is the Hometown Hero Down Payment Assistance. So Governor DeSantis, in the budget, they set aside $50 million to be used for military, police, firefighter, medical, teachers. That program is still running as of the time of this filming, and it has about 25 million left. So it's about 50% through, but it launched in August, right? So we ran through about half of those funds in a couple of months. At the current pace we're going, that program will probably run out of funds in the December to January timeframe. So I'm warning buyers, hey, don't sit on the fence. That program gives you 5% towards down payment or closing cost. So if you're doing FHA, it'll pay your entire down payment and a little bit left over for closing. If you're doing conventional, it could pay all of your down payment and potentially have some left over for closing.
Yeah, that's huge. That's awesome.
Yeah, you don't have to pay that back, right?
You do.
Okay.
So the Hometown Hero through Florida Housing and the Florida Bond, which is $10,000, that's available for everyone. There's no occupational requirements, but both programs are 0% interest. So you're not going to be charged any money while you hold on to it. But whenever you sell the home, refinance, or move out of the house, you have to give them their money back. So I tell people it's not free money, it's fronted money. They do want it back at some point in time, but it's still a much better option than continuing to rent, right? Because rent is 100% interest.
So anybody's eligible. Is there like credit score requirements in order to be able to use the Hometown Hero?
Yeah, the way that I usually explain it to everybody is every time you invite somebody else to the party, they get a say in how it goes, right? So if you look at your typical FHA and VA, they will allow you to go down to 500 FICO. VA technically doesn't actually have a minimum FICO as long as the bank's willing to do it. But if you want to utilize those funds through Florida Housing, they require 640 and they have income limitations, right? So you can't make too much money and you have to have a little bit better credit.
Okay, gotcha. And is there a specific cap on the amount that the VA will lend as far as purchase price?
A couple of years ago, the VA actually removed the cap if they don't have a loan with you. So the way that they kind of break it down is if you're applying for your VA loan and they have no other properties financed with you, then they will let you qualify for whatever you qualify for. $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, they don't care. If you qualify, if you show the debt to income and the responsibility to handle that payment, they say fire it up. However, if you currently have a house that has financing on it and you've now moved or you're trying to get another house, move into another home, let's say you PCS'd, so you bought a home in Virginia and now you're PCSing to Florida, you're going to rent the home in Virginia and you're moving to Florida and you'd like to buy another one. Since they have now more than one mortgage with you, they want to limit their exposure, their risk to each veteran. So they cap the limit at the conforming loan limit, which at this time is almost $860,000. So if you were to buy a home in Virginia for $350,000, and then you were to move to Jacksonville and you were looking to buy another home, you would still have about $500,000 of eligibility left over, depending on how much was utilized on that first mortgage that you still have.
Okay, so I think we covered a lot with VA loans. Is there anything else that you can think of?
I don't think there's really a whole lot. It's unless we get into like very finite details. And I feel like that almost comes like case to case basis.
Yeah, a lot of it's case to case. The other benefits of the VA loan is that they allow for a little bit higher debt to income ratio, which will help you be able to qualify for a little bit more. A lot of times we see borrowers that are 100% disabled, and so this is a company by company basis. But some of them, if they do have 100% eligibility or disability, they will allow them to remove the taxes from the estimated payment when qualifying the borrower. which will help them qualify for more because we know that you'll be able to apply that homestead and waive those property taxes. A lot of it becomes kind of case by case, finite details. That's why it's important to get with a lender that knows VA, that does a lot of VA, because a lot of, I would say, I think it's like 90% of mortgages are conventional, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And so if you just go to your local bank or you just go to a random lender and you start talking to them about VA, a lot of times they don't know those little nuances, how much you can gross up Social Security and disability, how much you can gross up BAH and BAS, which is the sailor and soldiers housing and food allowance, because those are tax free. Those little things that they don't know, that you can go over 50% debt to income and still get approval. Those little things that lender may not be used to utilizing with a conventional loan that's the bulk of their business can mean the difference between the veteran being able to get the house they want or not.
All right, I did want to move on to your other business, Anchored Armory. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And then we'll get into the specifics as to why real estate agents and just anyone needs to come see you.
Like I was saying earlier, I was military police and then civilian police before I got into mortgages. When I was in the military, I was a firearms instructor for my unit. And so that was kind of always my first passion, was being an armor and working with guns and teaching people firearms. And then once I got into mortgages and I started meeting with a lot of realtors, I would keep hearing these situations about like just crazy things that happened to properties or just random stuff that you guys have to deal with. And that was when I started, telling people more like, hey, I used to teach firearms. I can help you. I can teach you. We can look at different things. And more people started asking me like, oh, well, how can we get concealed carry and how can we do this and how can we do that? And so that's when I finally was just like, well, I should probably start something, because all of my certifications and qualifications are from the military that the civilian side doesn't realize. So I went and got NRA certified instructor and concealed carry instructor and stuff like that. And then last year decided, well, I might as well just open a gun store and have access to sell guns. I can also teach firearms. I can teach and instruct those certifications. And then I can help and assist any of my agents that are, worried or concerned, because there's just so much fear around firearms if you're not familiar with firearms.
Yes.
And
Me being one of those people.
Yeah. And it is a scary thing. One thing that often happens, especially with females, is they'll start out and they'll go, hey, what's a good gun for me? And I'll say, well, you really need to, it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
The smaller the gun, the more it recoils, and the larger the gun, the less it recoils, generally speaking. So a lot of times when I was teaching my wife how to shoot, she'd pick up a gun that was big and heavy, and she'd go, oh, this is too big, this is too heavy, and she'd set it down. And then she'd pick up a small gun, and she'd go, ooh, this is perfect, it's nice and small. And I go, oh okay. So watch out. And she would shoot it and feel the recoil and go, oh, no, it's scared, set it down. No, I don't want that. Then I'd finally convince her to pick up the big gun. It would recoil very little. And she goes, oh, well, this is easy. And then she would enjoy shooting. So you do need to have that kind of balance and give and take. You need to go out and shoot firearms either at a range with rentals or with somebody who has multiple different firearms, so you can try a bunch of different sizes, because what fits good in my hand is not going to fit good in your hand. It's not going to fit good in Sydney's hand. It's a preference, right? So like driving, a sports car, you can have a truck, you can have an SUV. They all have their benefits. They all have a give and take, right? You're not going to be able to get the handling out of the SUV, but you're not going to get the cargo space out of the sports car, right? So which one's more important in the situation for you?
Okay. Sydney, what would be a time where it would have been beneficial for you to have a firearm?
Which one? I mean, I've definitely carried on multiple occasions. I'm not gonna lie. I've been in a lot of sketchy situations where, like, if I wasn't carrying, I'm like, oh, I really should be carrying right now. This is like really sketchy. I mean, it was actually in one of our recent episodes when I went to the house in San Marco, as the older home, and it was just massive, and it was like a scary situation. But I had my son with me, who's 3 weeks old, and he was in a carrier. And I was with a customer who I trusted, like, indefinitely. And like, it was a very sketchy situation. But I've been in situations where I've been in homes where there have been squatters. Yeah. Like, we work with a lot of investors. So we're seeing these properties that are not like, hey, we've done multi-million-dollar homes that are just like the cream of the crop. And then we have done ones where like it's like someone's cooking something in there and it's not food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I've definitely been in situations where that's happened. Like I've been in where like the squatter is probably the worst one, honestly.
Well, it's more so like scary when you walk in somewhere and you realize you don't have anything to protect you
Yeah.
and someone's in the house and you had no idea and you
Yeah.
don't know their intentions, it's
And
just,
they also don't know your intentions. So fear is like what's going to set people off more than anything else.
yeah.
Like, I mean, if I walk into a house and I don't know who they are, they're not supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be here. And they're definitely not the homeowner. Like my only thought in my head is that there's a bad intention here. Like it's not,
Yeah.
Good. Unless you got a branded shirt and you're out there cleaning the pool, or mowing the grass. Like my first thought goes to I'm in danger. And like it's just gonna initiate that fight or flight mode. I know of a recent time when you definitely should have been carrying.
Yeah. We were just telling CJ about how myself and Nicole Ryan, we were pulling up to our commercial listing. Someone got out. Two guys had machetes, which it sounds a lot scarier when you say it this way, but they had machetes and they get out and they were really going to go chop down some foliage or something.
Yeah.
But
Beyond the
we
fence
didn't
is
know
like
that.
it's a lot of brush.
Yeah. So I'm like, Nicole, are you carrying? And she's like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, she's like, I wish I had. And her reasoning was because she hadn't gone to the range recently. She wasn't super comfortable carrying. So it's one of those things that you have to like keep practicing and keep doing.
Yeah. A lot of times when I talk to people, first thing when they find out I'm a firearms instructor, they go, oh my God, we should go to the range together. And my first response is always, or we should go to the classroom together. Right? Because the first time you drove a car, they didn't take you out on I-10 and just say best of luck, right? You drive in a simulator and then we do a couple laps around the parking lot with no other cars. And then we go hop on the streets, right? And that's how I like to train with firearms as well. When I was in the police department and the military, you train for 40 hours, Monday through Friday, for a week, just dry fire before you ever go to the range and fire a live bullet.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's how I was kind of brought up and trained. And then I get into the civilian side and everybody just wants to start at the range. And I'm like, that's not a great place for me to teach because it's loud. There's a lot going on. It's real. Right.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that you're being safe above all and then try to instruct. You can't really hear me and you're not in a situation where you can make a mistake comfortably without freaking out. So we like to start in a classroom where we can make sure all the guns are clear and safe. I can explain things to you in a quiet, controlled environment. You can interact and handle the firearms and ask questions in a confident manner, knowing that they're all clear and safe and there's no actual live rounds.
Mhm.
You can practice everything that you're supposed to. We have dummy rounds, we have fake rounds where you can practice the actual process of loading and unloading a firearm.
And cleaning a gun too would also be really good knowledge to have.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how many times the number one time of a negligent discharge is cleaning the gun because they just didn't clear and safe it properly, or they're cleaning with ammo and they reloaded this gun and they went to clean that gun and this, that, and the other. So there's, 9 times out of 10, it's just that negligence. It's forgetting to follow the basic instructions and safety rules. And being a range safety officer and working at the range for a long time, the stuff that you would see there, right? People flagging people loading bullets in backwards and stuff. And you're just like sitting there like, oh my God, what are you doing? But it's because they went straight to the range. They bought a gun and they went straight to the range and they went, I'm cool. And it's like, we really need to go over this. And then if not, they're practicing at home and they don't have safety material and the stuff. A lot of competition shooters actually nowadays with VR and stuff, they just train at their house. They can set up little courses. They can put on VR goggles. They have training simulators. And like you can get all of that practice. There's laser things that you can set your phone up with an app and it'll register where the shot would go. You can practice and you can dry fire. You can do all the training you want without ever leaving your house and without spending any money on ammo. And then going to the range itself should just be, when you have the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you teach private lessons? Do you do group trainings? I feel like so many people at United Real Estate Gallery would be like on board with signing up for something like that.
Yeah.
Well, at least at our brokerage, I'm sure at many others.
Yeah, I feel like at a lot of others. I've been through like quite a few like women's training sessions, and it's been great. I mean, I just like to re-up my knowledge on it all, honestly. I think it's just good knowledge to have.
Yeah.
I
I'm just
don't
over here a big scaredy cat.
Yeah, I don't want to be scared of a gun. Like I would hate to be put into a situation where like I have to use it and I'm afraid and I'm working on fear. I wouldn't want to work on fear not with a gun.
We do classes, we do personal, I do all of the above. So I have my NRA basic pistol instructor and concealed carry instructor. And NRA's concealed carry course is designed to meet the specification of all 50 states.
Okay.
So it's actually a lot more stringent than Florida's typical because they've made it to the point where it will qualify a person in, the strictest gun state.
Yeah, we're not exactly the very strict,
Correct.
right? So
Florida
like
actually
from
did
a
away with requiring concealed carry license, right? They are now no longer pressing charges for open carry, which is a big one that everybody's freaking out about. And it's funny because I was a cop in Virginia Beach, and Virginia is an open carry state, so it's like never been a big deal. And then so now that to see them kind of say, hey, we're not going to enforce that, and now people are starting to open carry, and everybody like watching everybody go through this, and I'm like, it's not as big a deal as you think it is. Yeah.
When it's open carry, that just means like you can carry a gun on your hip but you can't, there's still
It's not
regulations
concealed.
and rules. Like you can't I don't know.
Correct. Yeah. So with open carry, that means that you can carry it openly seen to the public.
Yeah.
Right. So if I have my firearm on my hip and you can see it just standing there, that would be open carry. If I were to cover it with something, it would be concealed carry. And so open carry versus concealed carry is actually a much bigger deal for the law enforcement officer, right? And knowing the statute and how to affect the law and know whether somebody is or isn't violating rights or breaking the law and stuff like that. So that was what we dealt with it more in Virginia Beach was making sure that you know how the laws are written and then how you saw whatever you saw to be able to affect laws and arrests and probable cause and stuff like that. But as far as open carrying, what they basically said, it is illegal to open carry in Florida, as far as I'm aware. The district attorney or the justice, I forget the terminology, but they said we are not going to prosecute open carry arrests.
Okay.
So they're saying basically like, hey, the law is on the books. You cannot do this, but we're not going to prosecute. So if that's the only thing you were doing, we're not going to go after it. Right.
It would be different if you're pointing a gun at somebody or
Correct.
handling it negligently or whatever it may be.
Correct. And even with open carry, and this was in Virginia, I'm not sure how Florida is going to eventually shake out and how the laws are going to kind of go through. But like in Virginia, you couldn't open carry a rifle loaded. Right. So then as an officer, I had to know what was my probable cause for thinking or suspecting that the rifle was loaded. Right. If it was a rifle that had a magazine inserted and I could see the magazine inserted, right, that gave me at least probable cause to verify whether it was loaded or unloaded.
Right.
Once I determined that it was unloaded, I then lost my probable cause and would turn the weapon back over to the person. So, it's all a chess game when it comes to those things. For the general public, people that want to carry to protect themselves generally are not going to open carry because it draws attention to yourself. The last thing you want is like, oh, cool. So if somebody's going to rob this place, they know that I'm the first person that they should take out because I'm displaying my gun, right? On the flip side, you're going to get a lot of other people who freak out and you're going to get management complaints and it's going to draw a whole bunch of negative attention to you that you just don't want to deal with if you're a general, normal, law-abiding, concealed carrying person. It's just, since there's no reason not to conceal carry, you're going to conceal carry 99.9% of the time. The only time you're actually going to see open carrying generally is when it's somebody doing some type of demonstration, some Second Amendment demonstration or something, which we already saw happen outside of NAS Jax a couple of weeks ago. There's a couple people standing out there with rifles now kind of demonstrating Second Amendment stuff.
So where is your gun store located?
So we're located back behind the Harley-Davidson dealership off of 95 and Bay Meadows.
Okay.
So if you head back towards, there's a charter school right across the street, and we're actually right next to the parking lot for Florida Department of Agriculture, where you would get your concealed carry. So I've got like a little
That's
sign.
convenient.
You can go get your concealed carry, and as soon as you get your concealed carry, you can pop over to the gun store and get you a gun, and we can get you on your way.
Nice. Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What are some tips you would have for realtors or even for someone touring a home that, when they go in, what would you recommend that somebody does to make themselves feel safe?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I recommend to agents is your upfront due diligence, getting the person's driver's license, getting who they are, running them through some type of background check or something that you can have access to make sure that they're a real person, right? And just watching out for red flags, right? If they say they're this, but they don't want to give you a driver's license, if they're saying it's this, but the driver's license is from a weird state or something like that. Just any time that your spidey senses are tingling, listen to them. That's the biggest thing that you can do before you go out to the actual property. But we understand that time is of the essence, and right now we're in a season where the first person to get there gets it. That's just everybody wants something right now on demand as quick as possible. So we understand you can't always do all of that. The biggest thing once you get on property, there's a couple of things. Make sure that your car is pointed towards the exit. So if you drive in and it's a cul-de-sac, circle around and make sure you're pointed back out. So if you were to try to run away, you don't hop in your car and then drive into a dead end. And now you have to circle back past the guy or back past the person. Being aware of which way is in and which way is out. Same thing, same reason you usually want to circle around, drive past the house and circle around, because if you came in from that direction, even if it isn't a cul-de-sac and you could get out that way, do you know how to get out that way? Right? Are you familiar with the neighborhood? So if you turn your car around and park and then go into the house, at least the car's pointed in the direction that you came in and you know that you can get back out that way. Once you walk up to the property, always try to open a second exit, right? The first thing when you go up to the door and you open the door, try to let the other person go first. I know especially for women, that's not always the case because a lot of them are, chivalry, and they'll go, oh, no, I insist. You got to kind of play that one by ear. But if you are going to be the first one in as well, or whether you're the second one in, immediately try to find the back door, unlock and open that, because we want two exits open and valuable, right? If you walk into the house and then they walk in behind you and shut the door, right? Now you're trapped because the only exit that you know of, he's standing in between you and the exit, right? So if we walk straight in and we go straight to the back door and we open it up and we go, oh my God, look at how beautiful the backyard is. This could definitely fit a pool, make it something where it's nonchalant. But now we know we have two exits open. Other than that, obviously try not to go too far into the house with them. Again, now you're kind of walking yourself into dead ends. We're not really trying to tour into the master bedroom with him or with her, or with whoever the person is. We're trying to stay in the hallway. We're trying to stay close to the exit and keep the person between you and the exit, so that way you can, go to run if you need to go to run. And then the biggest thing is trusting your spidey senses. If
Wear
something,
comfortable shoes.
yeah, comfortable shoes is another one. Heels. The other big thing when we're talking about concealed carry is bring it in the house. The first thing
in the car.
The first thing I ask is, oh, where are you going to conceal carry? And they're like, oh, I'm probably going to throw it in my purse. I'm like, cool. Do you take your purse in the house? Well, no, I usually leave it in the car. Excellent place for your gun when you get into a struggle.
Yeah.
Another thing, and if you're not comfortable with firearms, you can carry any type of non-lethal. They've come out with a lot of innovative gadgets for non-lethal.
Pepper spray.
I usually recommend, instead of pepper spray, pepper gel. Because a lot of people will go, oh, I'm going to get some pepper spray and at least I have something. If you've never been pepper sprayed, you don't want the first time that you experience pepper spray to be in the middle of the struggle. And the downside of the spray is it goes up into the air, right?
Yeah.
So if there's a struggle and you pull out the pepper spray and you pepper spray him right next to you, you're getting some too,
right?
And you're going to take that. And so now you're going to have to deal with feeling the effects and trying to get out of there.
I literally didn't even know pepper gel was a thing.
Yeah, so they make a gel substance that's not an aerosol, so that way you can spray them, but it will stay on them instead of going up into the air where now you're breathing it in and now you're choking and running out and trying to figure out how to get out of there.
That would be my luck right there. I'd like blow in, there'd be a fan or something like that.
We always see it on the movies or something where they go to spray him or whatever, and it ends up going right back into the hero's face.
Yeah.
I'm like, that would be my luck too. The one time that I ever
Have to use it.
I had a firm no pepper spray when I was policy when I was a police officer because I don't like it that much. I'm like, you can tase me. If he gets my taser away from me and he tases me, I'm fine being tased.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of pepper spray. So
I have a taser, but my thing is you have to remember to like charge it. So I'm like, okay, cool. I have this taser. Oh, it's dead. All right. What am I going to do with that? So, yeah.
Yeah, and they make flashlight tasers and stuff like that, so it can kind of double where you can, have your flashlight, especially if you're looking in a house, you get to the building and it doesn't have power, right? Now we need a flashlight anyways.
Yeah.
So it's good to carry with you in real estate in general. So there's
also maybe don't go into buildings that don't have power with people you don't know 100%. Like maybe don't go into a building that requires.
Right, you're like, we'll be fine. Come on in here.
Yeah, we'll be fine, said everyone that dies first in a horror movie ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll carry my my pepper spray. I'll carry it with me, especially if I'm meeting someone for the first time, like when I'm moving around things so that they see at least I have it. Like, okay, don't try anything. I'll try and spray you with this.
Yeah.
If it doesn't hit me back in the face.
The stories you guys get into are probably just as interesting as some of the stories police officers get into because you guys are my buddy's in property management and he sends me like Ring camera videos.
Oh, property management
is the time of just shenanigans.
Yeah. Yeah, it is wild, some of the stuff that goes on. I also didn't circle back to say with the machete, like, there was no harm towards me or no.
Oh, yeah. They were fine. They were just trying to clear some brush.
Yeah, it was just clear a little brush. There was just a language barrier, no warning that they were bringing it out. And I was trying to be like, all right, who can I fight off first or like trip and run really fast? So.
Yeah. That's generally the number one time that you realize you don't have a weapon is when you were like, I should really have a weapon.
Yes.
And it's one of the worst feelings to kind of step into when something happens and your first instinct is, oh, where's my gun? And it's like, it's not here. And you're just like, all right, well, we're in it now. What are we going to do? And I do recommend as well, like you go to some martial arts, take some jujitsu, take some different classes and stuff. Have something. I have 2 daughters and both of them will be going into jiu-jitsu from a very early age because everybody can go night-night, right?
Yeah.
You can put anybody to sleep. I don't care how big or small you are. And so at the very least, if somebody is trying to attack you, right, you can put them into some type of chokehold potentially and put them to sleep and then get away.
I'm not sure I'd be able to do that to somebody my husband's size. Be like, oh, come on, go to sleep. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Hopefully it never comes to that.
I think you'd be more surprised at yourself when you have like adrenaline running through your body. I feel like people like lift cars with adrenaline.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Plus, like the biggest thing is generally they're not training, right? So they don't know. A lot of times, like there's a whole bunch of moves that you can kind of lure somebody into where they think they're winning and they don't realize they're not winning until it's too late.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that was probably the most frustrating thing training martial arts and stuff in the military is like these teeny tiny guys that are just toying with you and like you're trying, nothing that you do matters. Yeah. And they're like literally just like yawning and like eating chips and they're just like stop and you're just getting more and more frustrated and then like you think you got them and you're like yes and then all of a sudden you're like nope don't got them.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you guys letting me tell everybody a little bit about VA loans and my second passion of guns.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think a lot of real estate agents will appreciate it as well. And hopefully we'll send you some business.
Perfect.
All right.
Thanks, CJ. All right. If you guys want to hear anything else or have anything that you do want to listen to from us and listen to us yap, let us know.
Yeah. We'll also put CJ's information both for the loans and also for your gun store as well on here. And you guys can get in touch with him that way.
Go check him out.
Yeah.